Today, she and I are friends, by the way. She has forgiven me. And she even told me something that Mary Jo told her offender. She said, I love you and I forgive you. And I never thought I'd hear those words because I tried so hard to make at least indirect amends. You know, you can't bring Timmy back. He's gone. I can't. If I could bring him back, then it'd be direct amends. But to her, I can at least try to make some amends. And she didn't want to hear from me. And it wasn't until maybe 20 years of sobriety, somewhere in there, I got a call from MAD that she had contacted them and she wanted to talk to me. We ended up becoming friends, and what flipped the switch of being willing to talk to me is because her daughter drove under the influence of alcohol in the same town that I killed little Timmy in, Marshall, Missouri. She didn't live there. She was partying. She got into a crash, injured someone, and it could have killed someone. And that's where Sherry had a light bulb moment. She says, oh my God, my own daughter could have killed someone. And then she wondered about me. She said, I wonder if Timothy has a mom. I wonder if he has anyone who loves him. What is his family like? You know, she saw me as a potential human being for the first time since this had happened, you know. It took a long time to get there, but that's why she reached out. And it was shocking to me to actually talk to her. And then the day came where she sent me a message and she said, Timothy, I mean this. I believe that you are one of the best things that has ever happened to me in my life. Who would have thought that a mom could say that? I had a hard time wrapping my mind around it, but it would have been dishonorable to consider her just a manipulative person. People don't do that. She meant it. She understood the power of forgiveness, the miracle of forgiveness. You know, she was a person that happened to be Catholic, and my perception of Catholicism is that no one does forgiveness like a Catholic. If you're Catholic, cheers to you. I'm not Catholic, but Buddhists do pretty darn good too, by the way. It's no vodka in it. And Mary Jo was Catholic, and I've just run into so many Catholics that have been supportive prison ministry that I've spoken for and things like that, you know. And they're a good lot. I got nothing bad to say about Catholics. And so now she tells the story, our story, she calls it. And she goes to her churches and her various ministries that she's involved in, right? So she says, yeah, I tell our story. I go, wow, she's telling our story, you know. And I heard a woman in Al-Anon speak at Gopher State one year. She was in Al-Anon like 38, 40 years. Her husband was in AA like 35. You know, they always beat us in recovery, you know. Well, not always, of course, but I'm just being humorous. But, and after she spoke about some really powerful stuff, I talked to her and I said, well, you know, I drove under the influence and I killed someone. I was playing that little tape out for her. And I said, I hit Sherry and I ran over a baby in a baby stroller, you know. And she and Sherry and little Timmy are my victims. And she stopped me right there. And she said, stop. Nope, not true. You just said something that's half true. Timmy is your victim. Sherry is not your victim. We can get well regardless of if the alcoholic is drinking or not. Regardless of what they've done in our lives, we can get well. Burn it into the consciousness of every human being is what the Big Book talks about. Is that we can get well regardless of anyone. And I don't think I started to truly grasp that without the fourth and fifth step in the work that I did in Al-Anon. Al-Anon helped me understand the program of AA in a way that had been a mystery to me before I joined and started working that program. If you're working with another alcoholic, even as an AA sponsor, you have an alcoholic in your life, right? There's your requirement for membership. You can attend Al-Anon. Just don't talk about AA in there, you know. And, it's just a separation for programs. Some programs allow you to do it, some meetings allow you to do it. But I usually omit anything to do with AA. It's an outside issue. But Sherry sent me these pictures, and look at little Timmy, happy baby, right? And the woman in the upper right-hand corner, Susan, was out for a walk that day. Susan is little Timmy's auntie, and as I was approaching both she and Susan walking together, and Sherry is pushing a baby stroller, I hit Sherry, and just before I hit her, I said, God, please don't let me hit him, but it was too late. And Susan did run to safety, but then when I hit Sherry, she went up into the air, back down, I ran over her legs, and then I heard that baby stroller underneath the car. I guarantee you, that's not a sound you'll ever forget. You know? And when you watch a movie of a cop chasing a crook, and you see the car go airborne in this exciting chase scene, and the chassis drags the asphalt, and sparks go flying, and CG stuff is going on, and it's very exciting to you because you still have your innocence. But after I sobered up and I first heard that sound, it instantly brought me back to that time and place where I heard that stroller underneath my car. And after I sobered up, I didn't have anywhere to run. I couldn't run to a bottle to find God in the bottom of the bottle. I couldn't run to a drug to hide and mask my pain. I had to feel everything. And I remember driving and seeing a woman pushing a baby stroller, and I just broke down sobbing. I had to pull over right away because I couldn't see the road through my tears, you know. And after speaking for Matt and wanting to kill myself, this was getting to be too much, and I finally told Mary Jo. I mean, I was hoping it'd just go away, right? But the feeling wasn't going away. And I told Mary Jo, I said, Mary Jo, I can't speak for Matt anymore. I can't do this. This is killing me, man. I didn't join Matt and want to commit suicide. I just want to kill myself, and I'm done. And she said, Timothy, you're in a really unhealthy place. She knew my story very intimately. And she said, you are suffering from low self-esteem. She knew I'd been sexually abused as a child, and I felt like I was worthless to humanity as a result of some of that. I had a lot of different breaks in confidence. I even had a psychologist that was supposed to help me that was, you know, there's no children here. He was masturbating in the room while asking me questions about my penis and things like that. And this guy's there to help me, but he's like betraying that trust. So I didn't trust anyone. By the time I got 18, I had seen so much, I just tried to turn all that off. And it wasn't until I sobered up that I started to do something about that trust. And that was the third step. I don't have to trust people. I just have to trust God. And then start doing that work, right? And it's none of my business what you think of me, but take that to the next level. It's also none of my business what I think of me. The only thing that matters is what God thinks of me. If I can connect with that power, that divine intelligence, it's going to change the way I view everything in my life. Even this. But it took a while. And when Mary Jo said, I'm suffering from low self-esteem, she told me, you're walking with the enemy, and the enemy is you. She gave me a project. She said, I want you to do some mirror therapy, which probably some of us know what that is, but for those that don't, we walk up to a mirror every morning. Very first thing, before you do anything else, Mary Jo said, you don't pee, you don't smoke, no coffee, no nothing, straight to the mirror. You look at yourself in the mirror, in the eyes, say your name out loud, point at yourself and say, Timothy, I love you. And you do that every day until you meet him. And I thought it sounded ridiculous. It sounded like pop psychology or something to me, but I respected her, so I agreed to try it. And the next day I said, Timothy, with obligation, I love you. And then I spewed expletives about how much I hated myself. You killed someone's child, you're a dirtbag. You know, how could you possibly be of worth to anyone? There's something wrong with you. You're damaged goods. somebody knows that you've been abused, then you might bring some of those issues of no trust into a sexual relationship, and that might be hard on them. It's like, I'm never going to be any good to myself or anybody else. Woe is me, And, but I realized after I was just dogging myself for like 20 seconds, 30 seconds, I don't know how long it went on, but I thought, I wouldn't talk to somebody else like this. I would never say this to somebody else, but I'm doing it to myself. And I decided to do this work. So every day for 8 years, I looked in the mirror and I said, Timothy, I love you. And then one day I meant it. And I was shocked. I couldn't see the ex-convict in the mirror anymore. I couldn't see the abused person. I couldn't see the racist that I had been in prison. I couldn't see any of the stuff that had been wrong with my life. It had disappeared. And I got closer and I looked as close as I could. I thought, what is this real? And I don't, maybe it's my imagination, but I thought I saw a mantle of peace around my face that looked like a white mist. And there was nothing but love. And I, for the first time, loved myself. And guess what happened? I got all happy and shit. I didn't go dancing down the street and stuff and start singing every day or something, and that would have been good if I did, but I didn't. And so I had to work with that emotion and keep practicing it, but eventually it became the pattern. But that moment that happened, I never wanted to kill myself after speaking for Matt again. That disappeared. And then I had to do deeper work for the other areas of love that I hadn't really accessed yet, And when you're in a lot of physical pain, you get to find out more about that. Where I'm at now, it's like, oh yeah, this is really hard. And in the native tradition, when they want to tell the truth as a speaker, they bring up the eagle feather, because you can't lie in the presence of the eagle feather. Well, my eagle feather is my girlfriend. She's here, so it's like she's going to see through the BS in a heartbeat. I might even hear something later. It's like, well, yeah, but what about? I don't know. Do the best I can with what I got, right? So, but she's my eagle feather, and I feel more sacred around her, not because it's an outside-in thing, but because of the alignment, the connection that we made, and the universe, God, whatever it is always conspiring to give each and every one of us in this room the best life possible at all moments and at all times. And if you ever read the book The Alchemist, that's one of the things he taught in that book. It's the one thing that really stuck with me. So that divine connection, I've made divine connections with some friends here. I helped marry them up on the North Shore. A friend of mine that's a PO, I won't point him out in this room. We made a divine connection. He used to be one of my supervisors at 180 degrees, and we ended up becoming friends. And there's just so many people in my life that are in this room today that I've made that divine connection with. Now, you don't have to know somebody personally to have a divine connection. We are all here today because of a divine connection. We are converging at the same place. And there's something that you're going to hear today that is aligning with you in a synchronistic way. And if you look at your synchronicities in life, you're going to understand the reason you're in any situation, because you're looking for the higher message. And so we all have our divine appointments, right? We're not all in the same boat, right, Fred? But we're all on the same ship, right? So we're not exclusive. Our lives look all different, but yet we're on the same planet, and we need to get along. First, God throws a pebble, and then God throws a brick. You ever operate that machine here? That's the Al-Anon, I'm not working the program picture. And a lot of us have done that. The self-ass kicking machine is called what it is. But those are still pebbles, and they're self-induced, and we can stop that anytime we want. But if we don't know we're doing it, we're going to blame the outside world because we've got our back turned to the boots that are kicking us, and we believe that it's something to do with the external world, but we're actually running our perception. There is no such thing as reality. There's only perception. It's not what happens to us that matters, it's how we perceive it, right? And Buddha said when the student is ready, the teacher appears. It's about that. It's like I'm in charge of what I say, you're in charge of what you hear. If you like something I'm saying, don't give me any credit. It's your perception. If you've surrendered your perception to the will of God, you're going to hear what you're supposed to hear. And if you don't like something I said, guess what? I ain't your problem. You know? I'm not your solution. I'm not your problem. This ain't about me. And in fact, if you remember me more than you remember the message that I tried to prevail upon you today, I've done you a great disservice. This is not about me. When I opened this deal, it was with prayer, God help me be an instrument of your mercy and peace and help someone in this room today. It's not all about me. And then, of course, the brick. See the guy reaching for the bottle? That's the alcoholic one. And the rat is waiting for us to go after it, and he's standing there celebrating, right? You know? And but that's, I've been there so many times, I've taken that brick. And Oprah said, first God fills a pebble, and then God fills a brick. Sorry, I like Oprah. So I stole her quote. And she also said, make your wounds your wisdom, which is part of the title of the speech. Here's a little Timmy quilt that they made for me and Matt. And they have like these huge panel of quilts that they make for everyone. If you lost someone, they'd ask you what you want your quilt to look like. You want a picture of somebody there. They didn't have any photographs of little Timmy at that time. So we just put a lamb dancing and on there. And the words came straight out of my heart. I said, little Timmy is looking down from heaven. Those in heaven see the heart, see mine. And then, you know, pictures of she and her husband. And their marriage didn't endure, by the way. She's remarried and she's got a good life now. There's my mugshot, another brick. But of course, I'm more than my mugshot. And a friend of mine started an organization that is called We Are All Criminals. And part of that website interviews people that have had crimes that they didn't get busted for. And they anonymously say what they did, you know. And had they been busted, they wouldn't be a judge today. They wouldn't be a cop today. They wouldn't be an HR supervisor. They wouldn't be a CEO of companies. There's all these things. We Are All Criminals. Emily Baxter is the one that started it. And but she also interviewed people that were ex-convicts or people that have been in jail and anonymously interviewed them about what they did and how they can't get jobs now, how difficult it is as a result of the consequences that attended to the crimes that were committed. And even if you've forgiven yourself and you love yourself, doesn't mean the world will, you know. And when Hazelden hired me as an employee, that was a very powerful day for me. Because I felt like I was moving forward. And I felt very blessed. But yeah, I am more than my mugshot. And, you know, the chief prison psychiatrist at Oak Park Heights Prison, which is one of the prisons I've been in, Stillwater is just not too far away. I was also in that prison. But because of the Freedom of Information Act, I was able to see my file. He had to be sitting there when I did it. But in the file it said, it is a foregone conclusion that Timothy Cameron will spend the rest of his life in prison. And, you know, you can always tell an alcoholic, you just can't tell them much, you know. You tell them they can't get well, they might actually get well, you know, just to fight you. And who knows, that maybe what he's thinking, but I don't think so. He wrote it in there, he seriously meant it. He had no reason to think that my life would go anywhere. And then when I filed for a pardon with the state of Minnesota, the governor just took one look at my crimes and said, you've done nothing but destroy lives. I'm not granting you a pardon. And I was frozen in just shame and terror and fear and whatever else. For a moment, I couldn't speak. He didn't give a chance for my witnesses to speak or anything like that, which is all fine, but he didn't understand. If, you know, they say that we didn't have a drinking problem, that we had a thinking